The fact that an increasing number of men who are members of the Passport Gang are fleeing their first world nations, which are rife with the female suffrage movement, to find love in other nations shouldn't come as a surprise. How can these men be blamed when their wives resent and despise them, and constantly lament their worthlessness? XXS's narcissism, entitlement, and fly-out misandry toward men have made many men want to date outside their country or go it alone. When you stop and think about what the feminist movement has done, you have to decide if this is indoctrination or something women have always wanted but haven't been able to achieve on their own over the centuries. If you were to ask me, I would say that there is a little bit of each, but I typically believe that the female movement is what women have always wanted when they feel inferior throughout their entire life. It is reasonable to assume that they will naturally want to achieve freedom, independence, and ultimately supremacy over the one superior being when presented with the opportunity to do so. We can see it in their desire for more power in the name of quality, and in the way they treat men they believe to be below them, because they have never experienced power before. The brutal truth is that women temporarily submit to men they believe are superior to them until they reach their level, and treat men they believe are superior to them like trash. They are just as good as those men. This, in my opinion, is the true nature of women, and everything about the current female movement reflects their goals. You would need to justify your position if you truly disagree with me. In most societies where the female movement has spread, the majority of women follow this path and reject tradition. According to contemporary women, traditionalism is when men lead and women follow. Despite their overwhelming cheering and praise, they believe that embracing their femininity shows weakness and oppression. When women decide to advance, accept their masculinity, power, and freedom over men. So, are they simply blindly adhering to the teachings of the female movement, or is this what they've always desired, but never had the power to achieve? I'll let you come up with a good response to this question, but based on what I've seen, women want the female movement. There is simply too much evidence pointing in that direction, in my opinion. So, I don't care if they don't get the life they want, because they just followed the female movement blindly. I'll let them deal with the consequences of what they did, like the things men are expected to do in this world. The truth is this: the female movement ideology works for women in their late teens and early 20s in terms of financial success, if they are career-driven and have an insane work ethic, which most women do not. However, they fail to realize that their attitudes will persist even as their appearance and body begin to deteriorate. As a result, men will ultimately not want this if they are thinking about getting married and having children. These women, who do not intend to have children or marry, can benefit from the female movement. They can work for themselves. They can ride the CC without restrictions, have money and independence, and die alone. However, if they want a man and a family, the feminist movement's ideology works against them. They get upset because the men they want won't give them what they need to make the female movement successful for women who want to start families, so they can't get everything they want. I think I made it clear enough for you to understand why the female movement doesn't work for women, because most women can't imagine living alone until they are old. They try to get someone to be their retirement plan and possible companion, so that they don't end up alone in a nursery home, or worse, on the streets. And you might ask, what is ironic? Even though most women who follow the female movement say that they don't need a man, they spend their whole lives relying on men to help them get through life. These men are their father's temporary boyfriend, the government, or their ex-husbands. As a result, they rely on men to keep them afloat each month, even though they are supposed to be strong and independent, and do not in any way require men. This is the reality, and I need to emphasize it to explain why men choose to travel abroad in search of women based on my observations of contemporary women who support the female movement. Men are becoming dissatisfied with contemporary BS because the female movement and everything women want is not for the benefit of men. To make matters worse, men are being turned away from these women because they cannot live up to their absurd standards due to their constant disrespect and the high barrier to entry. Then, to top it all off, if a man can get a woman to commit, he probably gets nothing but a dead bedroom, disrespect, nagging, and eventually divorce. To divorce, a man must therefore endure lies. In the end, he gets his reward by having his children taken away from him. Isn't that a fantastic deal? Who wouldn't jump at the opportunity? Despite my reservations about it, I can understand why men would want to travel abroad to find love. Keep in mind that a lot of women will use you just like the women you're trying to avoid because they think you're a good target. I am aware of this because I have female relatives who try to control and intimidate men to help them get green cards or improve their lives. Additionally, many of these women had boyfriends who coerced them into going out with men from developed nations to have fun and earn money for their families. I cringe when hope strategists who haven't seen this side of women tell me in the comments section that they don't understand because we live in a cold world. You are the only person who doesn't know what you're talking about because you don't live in a third world country. Permit me to show you, however. I used to work with a friend of mine who was also a coworker. I've always wondered how she started a bee farm and ran taxes. As a result, I had no choice but to inquire because she could sustain herself solely on the passive income she earned from her taxi business, whereas I was struggling to make ends meet on my meager salary. She informed me of this, and it will assist your strategist in seeing things in a different light. She told me that she and her friends paid for their college tuition by being con artists. Yes, did you hear that? In particular, while she was living in the United States, she would con men out of money and use the money to pay for her tuition and set herself up. As a result, she paid for the 2 taxis she bought with cash using sugar. Who would have thought that women's low self-esteem would become so widespread in recent years? I can't even recall the last time I gave something to a woman and saw how happy and appreciative she was. Because the way men are treated today is repugnant, I will always advise them to leave their current situation. There you won't be accepted. To avoid this absurdity, simply follow your path or lead a free agent lifestyle. That is the best advice I can offer. If you do not commit, she is either unable to control you or falsely accuses you. So heed my warnings.